My sister's husband told me to pack my things and leave my own house before sunset. Not calmly. Not respectfully. He said it as if I was a guest who had overstayed her welcome. I remember the exact moment. Because the ocean was visible through the glass walls behind him. The waves were calm, expensive calm. The kind that belongs only to people who believe nothing can touch them. I stood there barefoot on the marble floor of my luxury beach house, holding a glass of water, listening to my sister's husband explain why I no longer belonged. That was the moment I realized betrayal does not always come quietly. Sometimes it looks confident. Sometimes it sounds entitled. And sometimes it wears someone else's last name. My name is Natalie Brooks. I am 40 years old, unmarried, financially independent, careful with my privacy. I built my life slowly, deliberately, and without shortcuts. I invested early, worked harder than people noticed, and stayed invisible while others were loud. The beach house was my reward. A modern glass front home on the California coast. Private access. Quiet neighbors. No drama. Or at least that is what I thought. My younger sister is Lauren Brooks. 36, emotional. Dependent in ways she never admitted out loud. Lauren married Ethan Halley 5 years ago. That is when everything changed. Ethan was charming in public, calculated in private and dangerously confident around money that was not his. He spoke in assumptions, not facts. He acted as if proximity to wealth meant ownership. He never liked that the beach house was mine. He liked even less that Lauren did not owe anything comparable. The day Ethan ordered me out started like any other. I arrived at the house early in the afternoon. I planned to stay the weekend. I had meetings nearby and needed quiet. Lauren and Ethan had been staying there temporarily, or so they claimed. They said their condo was under renovation. I agreed to help because Lauren was my sister and because I believed temporary meant temporary. I unlocked the door with my code. Inside, nothing felt familiar. Furniture rearranged. New artwork on the walls. A scent I did not recognize. It felt like walking into a version of my home that no longer belonged to me. Ethan stood near the kitchen island, phone in hand, relaxed, confident, as if he owned the place. "You should have called," he said. That sentence felt wrong. "This is my house," I replied. He smiled. That smile carries certainty. "Not anymore," he said. I did not argue. I did not raise my voice. I asked one question. "What do you mean?" Ethan leaned against the counter and crossed his arms. "Lauren and I need this place full time. You live alone. You can stay somewhere else." I looked at Lauren. She avoided my eyes. That silence hurt more than his words. "You are asking me to leave," I said. Ethan corrected me. "I am telling you." The audacity of that moment stayed with me. The confidence of a man standing inside a house he did not buy, speaking as if my presence was an inconvenience. "You should pack today," he continued. "It will be better for everyone." Better for everyone. Who was everyone? Certainly not me. I walked through the house slowly, noticing things I had not noticed before. My office door was locked. My bedroom had been changed. Personal items were missing. Something deeper was happening. I asked Lauren quietly if we could talk. She shook her head slightly. Ethan stepped closer. "There is nothing to discuss," he said. "We will handle things from here." From here. As if ownership had already transferred in his mind. As if decisions had been made without me. I left the house that afternoon. Not because I agreed. Because I wanted to understand. By the time I reached my car, my phone was already buzzing. Messages from Lauren. Apologies wrapped in confusion. Excuses framed as stress. But one message stood out. Ethan sent it directly. Do not make this difficult. You will understand later. That message did not scare me. It clarified everything. I drove to a quiet cafe and sat alone, staring at the ocean from a distance. I pulled up my documents. The deed, the trust, the purchase history. Everything was clean. The house was mine. Legally, undeniably, comma. So why did Ethan act like he had power? The answer came when I checked one more thing. The property records. A recent inquiry, a pending filing attempt. Someone had tried to make changes. Without my consent. Without my knowledge. I closed my laptop slowly. This was not arrogance, this was a plan. And Ethan believed I would not fight back. By the time the sun began to lower, my phone rang again. Lauren this time. Her voice sounded small. He says you will cool down, she said. He says this is best. I looked at the horizon. Lauren, I asked calmly, did you give him permission to speak for you? She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. I ended the call. By nightfall, Ethan would understand. Something he never expected. I was not emotional. I was not impulsive. I was prepared. And the house he tried to take from me was about to become the reason his confidence collapsed. Because people like Ethan always forget one thing. They only feel powerful until the big low. Real owner stops being polite. I did not sleep that night. Not because I was emotional. Not because I was confused. I did not sleep because my mind was clear. There is a dangerous calm that comes after betrayal. It is the moment when feelings stop leading and strategy begins. I was already there. Ethan believed he had control because he spoke first. He believed volume meant authority. He believed I would back down because I always had before. He misunderstood me completely. I woke up before sunrise in a hotel, overlooking the same ocean my house faced. The difference was simple. That view no longer felt peaceful. It felt personal. I opened my laptop and made a list. Property law attorney, financial advisor, private investigator. I did not rush. I did not panic. I moved deliberately. By mid-morning, I had my first confirmation. The attempted filing on my property was not random. Ethan had contacted a real estate consultant 3 weeks earlier. He had asked about transferring ownership through marital claims. He had asked about trusts. He had asked about pressure tactics. He had been planning this while sleeping under my roof, while eating at my table, while pretending to be family. That was when anger finally arrived. Not loud anger, focused anger. The kind that builds quietly and destroys cleanly. Lauren called me again that afternoon. This time she cried. She said she felt caught. She said Ethan told her it was temporary. She said he promised stability. I listened. Then I asked one question. Did you sign anything? Her silence stretched. Then she whispered, I did not read it carefully. That was when I knew Ethan had crossed from arrogance into criminal behavior. I told Lauren to stop talking immediately and to not sign anything else. I told her to stay where she was. I told her I would handle the rest. By evening, my attorney confirmed something critical, because the house was purchased before Lauren's marriage and placed under a personal trust. Ethan had no claim. Not now, not ever. But that was not enough. Ethan was not just trying to live there. He was trying to leverage the house. He had spoken to lenders. He had hinted at collateral. He had used my property as a promise. Without permission. Without ownership. That kind of move leaves fingerprints. And fingerprints lead to consequences. That night, I drove back to the house. I did not go inside. I parked across the street and watched. Lights moved behind the glass walls. Music played. Laughter echoed. Ethan looked comfortable. That comfort fueled me. I took photographs. I recorded dates and times. I documented everything. People like Ethan forget that confidence leaves evidence. The next morning, the legal notices were prepared. Cease and desist. Unauthorized occupancy. Attempted fraud documentation. I did not deliver them myself. A courier did. At exactly 10:30 in the morning, I watched from my car as Ethan opened the envelope. I watched his posture change. I watched confusion turn into panic. That moment was not revenge. It was the beginning. My phone rang minutes later. Ethan this time. His voice was different. Not confident, not commanding, sharp, comma. What is this? He demanded. This is reality, I replied calmly. You cannot do this, he said. I already did, I answered, comma. Silence followed. Then anger, then threats, then bargaining. Each stage exposed him further. I ended the call without responding. By afternoon, the house felt different even from a distance. Blinds were closed. Movement was restless. Tension replaced entitlement. Lauren texted me later. He is scared, she wrote. I did not respond. Fear was necessary. But Ethan was not finished. That evening, he made his biggest mistake. He tried to move money. Money connected to my house. Money tied to an assumption he believed would hold. But assumptions collapse under scrutiny. And by midnight, my investigator had uncovered something else. Comma. Ethan was already in debt. Not small debt, not manageable debt. Hidden debt, credit lines, private loans, unpaid obligations. The beach house was his escape plan. And I had just removed it. I sat alone again, looking at the ocean. From my hotel room, I did not feel guilty. I felt awake. Because betrayal inside family does not deserve mercy. It deserves clarity. And clarity was coming. Ethan believed ordering me out was power. By the end of this chapter of his life, he would understand what power really looked like. And Lauren would have to choose where she stood, because silence had already made her complicit. By the third day, the house no longer felt like a place. It felt like a battleground. I could sense the tension even when I was not physically there. It showed in the messages I did not answer, the calls I let ring, the sudden politeness that replaced threats. People like Ethan do not soften because they understand. They soften because they feel the ground moving under their feet. And the ground was moving. The first sign came early in the morning. My attorney forwarded me a message marked urgent. A lender had contacted him directly. They were asking about collateral verification connected to my beach house. Ethan had promised security he did not own. That single lie had triggered scrutiny. Once scrutiny begins, it does not stop. I authorized my attorney to respond with full documentation, ownership, trust records, timeline, every detail. That response did not just protect me. It exposed Ethan. Lauren showed up at my hotel later that afternoon. She looked different. Not dramatic, not angry. Smaller, comma. She sat across from me, hands folded tightly, eyes red but dry. She had already cried enough before arriving. He did not tell me everything, she said quietly. I did not interrupt. He said you would eventually agree. She continued. He said you always stepped back. That sentence landed harder than anything Ethan had said. Because it was partially true. I had always chosen peace. I had always absorbed discomfort. Lauren mistook patience for weakness. Ethan weaponized it. I told her something I had never said before. This ends now, I said. Not later. Not gradually. She nodded slowly. That nod felt like a fracture. That evening, Ethan tried a different approach. He did not call. He sent a message. It was long, apologetic, strategic, comma. He blamed stress. He blamed misunderstanding. He blamed concern for Lauren's future. Not once did he acknowledge wrongdoing. That told me everything. I did not respond. By nightfall, the situation escalated on its own. Authorities arrived at the house. Not dramatically, not loudly, professionally, comma. A report had been filed. Fraud inquiry, misrepresentation, unauthorized use of property documentation. I did not request that step. The system did. That is the thing about lies involving money. They attract attention without effort. Lauren texted me later. He is pacing, she wrote. He keeps saying this cannot be happening. I looked at my phone and asked myself a question I had avoided. How many times had I allowed this dynamic to exist? How many moments had I dismissed? Because confronting them felt uncomfortable. That question mattered now. Because avoidance had built this moment. Near midnight, Ethan finally called again. His voice was low, controlled, comma. But underneath, something was breaking. We need to talk, he said. I agreed, not because he deserved it. Because I wanted to hear him. Realize what he had done. We met in a neutral place. No ocean, no luxury, no advantage, comma. Just a quiet office space arranged by my attorney. Ethan arrived early. He did not look confident. He looked exposed. He spoke first. I never meant to push you, he said. That sentence was carefully chosen. I let silence do the work. He continued. I thought we could figure something out. Figure something out meant delay. Delay meant survival. I did not give him either. You tried to take what was not yours. I said calmly. You did it deliberately. He looked at the floor. That was new. He admitted pieces. Not everything, enough. Debt pressure, bad decisions. A belief that the house could stabilize his image. Not reality, image, comma. I asked him one question. Did you ever plan to tell me? He did not answer. That was the answer. When the meeting ended, Ethan looked smaller than when it began. Not defeated, but unstable. And unstable people make mistakes. It is the moment before collapse. The moment when arrogance realizes it is alone. Lauren called me later that night. She asked if things could still be fixed. I answered honestly. Only if truth replaces fear, I said. She cried. That cry felt different. It did not sound manipulative. It sounded awake. I returned to my hotel room and stood by the window again. The ocean was darker now. The waves louder. I thought about ownership. Not of property, of self, of boundaries, of silence. By the time the sun rose again, Ethan's situation would unravel faster than he expected. Because the system he tried to manipulate was already moving. And I was done stepping back. The morning that ended everything did not arrive with drama, but with inevitability, and that was what made it powerful. I woke up knowing that whatever happened next would not be controlled by emotion, fear, or family pressure, but by truth that had already been set in motion and could no longer be stopped. I did not rush. I moved with the same calm that had carried me through every decision so far, because I understood something Ethan never did. When consequences are built patiently, they arrive all at once. By mid-morning, my attorney called with confirmation that the fraud inquiry had escalated into a formal investigation. Financial institutions had frozen accounts connected to Ethan's recent transactions, and lenders were retracting offers. They had extended based on misrepresented assets. His reputation, which he had guarded so carefully, was already cracking under the weight of his own assumptions. This was the part people rarely see. Collapse does not look dramatic at first. It looks quiet, procedural, and final. Lauren arrived at my hotel again that afternoon, but this time she did not sit down immediately. She stood near the window, staring at the ocean as if she were seeing it for the first time. And when she spoke, her voice carried a clarity that had been missing for years. "He lied to me," she said slowly, as if saying the words out loud made them real. Not just about the house, but about everything. I did not respond right away, because this moment was not about my validation. It was about her recognition. I had learned that growth only happens when people reach their own conclusions, not when they are pushed toward them. She turned toward me and asked the question I knew was coming. "Are you going to take the house back today?" I answered honestly. "I never lost it," I said, and that distinction mattered more than she realized. The legal process moved faster after that. Notices were served, timelines were enforced, and the temporary illusion of control Ethan had built collapsed under documentation he could not dispute. By late afternoon, he was required to vacate the property immediately, not because I demanded it emotionally, but because the law no longer allowed him to remain. When I arrived at the beach house that evening, the sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the glass walls that once reflected his confidence. The house felt different again, but this time it felt like relief instead of violation. Ethan was there, standing in the living room, with boxes half packed, his posture tense, his movements restrained, as if he were trying to hold himself together through sheer will. He looked at me with something I had not seen before, fear without anger. He spoke, but his voice lacked the certainty it once carried. "I made a mistake," he said, choosing each word carefully, as if careful words could undo deliberate actions. I thought I was protecting my future. I looked at him steadily and answered without raising my voice. "You tried to build your future on something that did not belong to you, and you expected silence to protect you." He swallowed and nodded, because there was nothing left to deny. Then he asked the question that revealed the final collapse of his confidence. "Can we fix this?" That question was not about reconciliation. It was about survival. I told him the truth. This was never about fixing anything. This was about ending it. By nightfall, the house was empty of his presence, and the locks were changed not out of anger, but out of necessity. Lauren stood beside me on the deck, watching the waves roll in as the last of his belongings were removed, and for the first time she did not defend him or explain him away. She simply stood there, quiet, absorbing the reality of what had happened and what it meant. Later that night, Ethan sent one final message. It was not demanding, not threatening, and not manipulative. It was short, remorseful, and too late. He said he was sorry and asked if there was any way to start over. I did not respond. Some lessons are not meant to be softened. As I stood alone in my home again, listening to the ocean that had witnessed every stage of this betrayal, I understood something with absolute clarity. Family conflict becomes destructive only when boundaries are ignored, and power shifts the moment silence ends. The lesson is simple but uncomfortable. Being kind does not require being compliant, and love does not require surrendering what you built. So I will ask you this. If someone tried to remove you from your own life, would you step back to keep the peace? Or would you stand your ground and let the truth speak for you?